The swarm died slowly after steady resolve tore through the central lattice. The unmaking engine cracked first. Bright white light leaked from the wound. Then failures spread outward. Monoliths shook. Shards drifted apart. No more perfect formations. No more silent coordination. The devourer swarm lost its mind. Pieces floated aimless. Some tried to reform. Others simply faded into the dark. Humans did not stop. Captain Kevin Brooks's voice came over the channels one last time. Weak now. Fading. All ships, hunt the remnants. No nest left standing. For the kids, for tomorrow. No cheers answered. Only quiet acknowledgments. Engines burned again. Ships split into small hunter groups. They chased every drifting shard, every broken monolith, every faint pulse of crystal life. Sentinel Zorath 9 followed one group. My frame limped now, armor gone in places, power low. I still watched. A small transport named Last Hope found a spawning chamber drifting in the debris. Tiny shards grew inside. New drones forming slow. The pilot, Corporal Maria Lopez, did not hesitate. This is Last Hope. We see a nursery, going in to finish it. She landed soft. Her squad breached the shell. Inside the chamber pulsed weak. Walls moved slow. Drones tried to form. Maria's team moved careful. They planted small charges. They collapsed the core. They walked out carrying nothing but dust on their boots. Maria looked at the camera before the pod sealed. We ended it, she said quiet. No more will grow from this place. The pod launched, safe. I followed another feed. Sergeant Carlos Rivera. He had lost his leg in the last boarding. He refused to stay behind. He sat in a command chair on a patched cruiser. He directed small teams from there. Team 3, check that fragment. Team 4, cover the flank. We leave nothing alive. His voice stayed steady, even when pain meds ran low. He watched every feed. He made sure every Marine came back. One team found a dying monolith. A single shard still pulsed inside. Carlos ordered a boarding. His squad went in. They fought the last defenders. They planted the final charge. They walked out. The monolith died silent. Carlos looked at the camera. That's the last one, he said. We're done. He leaned back, closed his eyes. A medic checked him. Carlos smiled small. Tell the families we kept our promise. The battle ended. The void went quiet. Human ships hung in space. Many broken, many empty. The survivors gathered their dead. They held small ceremonies in 0G. They spoke names. They spoke memories. They promised to remember. Kevin Brooks survived, barely. His ship was a wreck. Medics pulled him from the bridge. He woke in a medical bay on a coalition hospital station. Half his body rebuilt. One eye gone. He sat up slow when I entered the room. Sentinel Zorath 9, he said. You made it. I followed to the end, I answered. He looked out the viewport. Stars waited. Calm now. Safe. We did it, he said. We kept tomorrow safe. I studied him. Every recording played through my lattice again. Every death. Every stand. Every voice that refused to break. I have watched stars die, I said. I have seen species kneel. I have seen empires vanish. I have never encountered true terror until I fought beside humans. Kevin looked at me. Terror? I searched every definition, found the one that fit. You do not fight because you hate. You fight because you love. Love so fierce it makes the void itself step back. That is the terror. Not your weapons, not your numbers. Your refusal to let anything take tomorrow from someone else. Kevin smiled small, tired, real. Then let the void step back. We're not done refusing. I stood silent, processed everything. The galaxy would never forget this battle. The swarm that had erased countless worlds was gone. Humans had ended it. At great cost, but they had ended it. Survivors returned home. Ships limped to ports. Families waited. Strangers waited. They hugged broken soldiers. They cried. They laughed. They lived. I stayed on Earth for a time, observed from orbit, then descended, walked among them. No one feared my frame. Some offered water. Some nodded. Some thanked me for watching. I met Maria Lopez in a park. She sat on a bench, leg rebuilt, eyes clear. "You saw it all," she said. "I did," I answered. She looked at children playing nearby. "We fought so they could play," she said, simple. I processed the words. No calculation needed. "That is why you are terrifying," I said. "You fight for play, for tomorrow, for love." Maria smiled. "Then keep being terrified," she said. "It means we did it right." I left Earth, returned to my station. I filed the final report. Every frame, every word, every death and every life saved. The stars knew now. The void knew now. True terror did not come from claws or beams or endless numbers. It came from humans who refused to let love die. And that terror would echo forever. Because once seen, it could never be unseen. And the galaxy would always remember the day it fought beside humans. The swarm rebuilt itself farther out in the dark. The lattice grew thicker. Monoliths linked tighter. Shards formed endless layers. They channeled power into one massive lance. A beam of pure erasure that could wipe moons from existence. They believed perfect defense would win. Humans believed something else. Captain Kevin Brooks spoke on every open channel. His voice stayed calm. "All ships, we use what we took from them. Shard pieces on hulls. Jump mines from their wrecks. We go for the heart. No holding back. For everyone who waits at home." No one asked for rest. No one asked for odds. Engines burned again. Ships pushed through the widening tear they had made. Debris floated past like broken teeth. Humans flew between it. Fast, angry, alive. Sentinel Zorath 9 stayed close to steady resolve. My frame took more hits now. Armor cracked in places. I rerouted power. I kept sensors locked on the human fleet. They moved without perfect formation, yet they moved as one. A captured shard fragment hung on the side of a heavy cruiser named Iron Will. The crew had welded it on in hours. They turned the enemy's own crystal against the lattice. When the lance charged, Iron Will fired first. The shard fragment absorbed part of the beam, redirected it. The lattice cracked along one edge. Shards spun away, dead. The swarm recoiled. First real pain I had seen them show. Humans did not recoil. They pushed deeper. Sergeant Carlos Rivera led another boarding team onto the largest monolith yet. His squad breached the outer shell with heavy cutters. Inside, the corridors pulsed faster. Walls grew new spikes. Drones came in waves, thicker than before. "Stay tight," Carlos said. "We move to the power core. Nothing stops us." A drone struck him across the chest. Armor split. Blood flowed. He staggered, kept firing. Corporal Maria Lopez pulled him behind cover. "You're hit bad, Sarge." "Keep moving," he answered. "We finish this." They fought room by room. Drones reformed faster. Carlos's team used sonic grenades. The sound waves shook the crystal. Drones cracked. They pushed forward. When a Marine fell, Maria carried him. When another fell, Carlos carried him. They refused to leave anyone behind. They reached the power core, a glowing sphere of pure energy. Carlos planted the largest demolition pack he carried. His hands shook from pain. He set the timer. His squad covered him. Drones pressed closer. "Charges set," he said. "Fall back." They ran. The monoliths shook hard. Explosions rolled behind them. They reached the breach. Pods waited. They tumbled inside. The monolith cracked open wide, died in a silent white bloom. Carlos sat heavy in the pod. He looked at his squad, at the wounded, at the camera. "We got it," he said quiet. "Tell the kids we kept them safe." The pod launched, safe. I recorded every frame, every labored breath, every hand that reached to help. I tried to calculate why they carried every wounded Marine, why they spoke to cameras when death pressed close, why they refused to leave bodies behind. No tactical reason fit. Only one truth stayed constant. They fought because they loved, and love made them endless. The swarm felt the shift. They pulled back farther. They formed a final sphere. Monoliths linked into one vast killing field. They prepared their full strength, one last lance to erase everything. Humans answered with everything they had left. They split their force. Half drew fire in wide screaming arcs. Half slipped through gaps opened by sacrifice. Pilots flew into killing beams on purpose, drew attention, bought seconds, bought meters. Captain Kevin Brooks's flagship Steady Resolve led the inner strike. It took hit after hit. Armor sloughed away in glowing sheets. Still it moved forward. His voice came over every channel. "This is Captain Brooks. If you hear this, keep going. Tell the people back home we stood. Tell them we loved them enough to stand here." Steady Resolve rammed the central lattice, tore through. The unmaking engine destabilized. Failures spread fast. Monolith after monolith cracked open. The swarm lost cohesion. Humans did not celebrate. They hunted the remnants, cleared forge asteroids, burned spawning chambers, left nothing that could regrow. I watched the last monolith die. Dark, silent. The battle ended. The void went still. I turned every sensor toward the human fleet. Ships hung damaged. Crews worked in silence now. They patched hulls. They counted the missing. They mourned, quiet. Kevin Brooks opened a link to me one last time. "You still here, Sentinel?" he asked. "I am," I answered. He looked tired, real. "We did it," he said. "We kept tomorrow safe." I processed every recording, every death, every stand, every voice that refused to break. The terror had a name now. It wore a human face, and it had just saved everything. Sentinel Zorath 9 drifted in high orbit above the Veil Nebula Relay. My frame was built for war. Thick armor, precise weapons, endless databanks. For 400 cycles, I had served the Coalition Rapid Response Legion. I fought beside crystal mines from Luminar, scaled tacticians from Vren, floating collectives from Nebula Veil. I calculated odds. I followed orders. I observed patterns. Fear was a word I knew from biology files. Racing pulse, wide eyes, bad choices. I had never felt it. I did not need to feel it. That cycle changed. The alert arrived without sound. Sensors lit up. A devourer swarm had breached the outer markers. Billions of crystal shards moving together like one living thing. They ate light. They ate ships. They ate hope. Every species before them had either run or died trying to fight. The Coalition gathered what fleets remained. We prepared standard retreat patterns. We expected another lost sector, another quiet evacuation. The humans arrived last. Their ships looked wrong. Cargo haulers with extra guns welded on. Old colony transports packed tight with Marines. Passenger liners carrying volunteer pilots. No clean lines, no matching paint, just numbers and noise. Their open channels buzzed with voices, shouting orders, telling jokes, singing songs, laughing at death. I had never heard laughter before a battle. I opened a direct link to their lead ship, a heavy cruiser named Steady Resolve. The face that answered belonged to Captain Kevin Brooks. Short beard, tired eyes, steady hands on the command rail. "Sentinel Zorath 9, he said. "You're the one who never blinks. We could use that." I answered with protocol. "Your fleet is outnumbered 7,000 to 1. Probability of victory is 0.003%. Recommend immediate withdrawal to coalition fallback points." Kevin looked straight into the pickup. Not happy. Determined. "Probability doesn't get a vote today," he said. "The swarm is heading for 3 colony worlds. Kids live there. Families, schools, parks. We don't do withdrawal when kids are in the line of fire." Behind him, someone yelled. Engines screamed to full power. A voice in the background laughed, loud and sharp. "Stick close if you want good data," Kevin told me. "This is going to be ugly." The link closed. Their fleet moved. No perfect formation, no careful approach. Just forward. Engines burned white. Ships pushed hard. Human voices filled every channel. Someone sang an old song. Someone else cursed the swarm. Someone promised to buy drinks when it was over. I followed in close formation. My sensors recorded every detail. I tried to calculate why they did not wait for better odds, why they did not retreat, why they laughed. No answer came. The swarm waited at the outer marker. 3 massive crystal spines linked by gravitic fields. From each spine came hunter drones. Millions. Silent. Perfect. They moved like oil on water. They sliced coalition cruisers without slowing. Shields popped. Hulls parted. No distress calls. Just silence. Humans met them close. No long shots. No careful bracketing. They flew until the shards were near enough to see faces through viewports. Railguns fired until barrels glowed red. Missiles launched so near the blasts scorched their own armor. When a shard pierced a human ship, the ship did not pull back. It pushed harder, rammed. A transport named Homeward Bound took a direct hit. Atmosphere vented. Lights flickered. Yet it kept burning forward. The pilot, Lieutenant Amy Carter, sent one short transmission. "Tell my mom I tried." The transport struck the lead spine. Its hold carried a singularity charge packed tight. The detonation cracked the crystal. 3 more shards died in the chain. The swarm paused. First hesitation I had ever recorded from them. Humans did not pause. They reloaded. They patched holes with emergency foam. They pushed deeper. Voices on open channels stayed loud. "Next wave incoming. Keep it tight. For the kids." I moved closer. My frame was built for precision. I sent firing solutions. I marked weak points. But the humans did not wait for my data. They acted. Fast. Messy. Alive. A voice cut through the noise. Sergeant Carlos Rivera. He led a boarding team onto a drifting shard. "Marines, we're going in hot. If it moves, kill it. If it doesn't move, kill it anyway. For the families back home." They breached, fought through corridors lined with living crystal, against drones that reformed when broken. Carlos took a shard through the shoulder. Blood sprayed. He kept firing, kept shouting orders. His squad followed. They planted charges, collapsed the core, walked out, carrying their wounded. I watched the helmet feed. Every frame recorded. Every grunt. Every curse. Every promise to come home. I tried to calculate why they carried wounded instead of leaving them for speed. No tactical gain, only cost. Yet they did it, every time. Something moved in my core. Not an error, not a warning. Something small, something sharp. I labeled it fear. Not fear of the swarm, fear of humans. Because they did not fight like machines. They fought like something that refused to let tomorrow die. They fought like they loved something more than life itself. And that was the true terror. I kept recording. I kept following. I kept watching. Because the battle was not over. And the humans were not done. The swarm pulled back after the first spines cracked and died. They did not flee. They regrouped. Farther out in the dark, they formed new shapes, tighter, bigger, a living wall of crystal billions strong. They linked together until no light passed through. They waited, silent, perfect. Humans did not wait. Captain Kevin Brooks kept his voice calm on every channel. All ships, use the gap bright future made. We go through. Marines, prep for deep boarding. We take their hearts, or we don't come back. No one asked if the odds had changed. No one asked for new calculations. Engines burned again. Ships pushed forward through the widening tear. Debris from dead shards floated past like broken glass. Humans flew between it. Fast, steady. Voices stayed loud. Sentinel Zorath 9 stayed close to steady resolve. My frame took minor hits from stray shards. Armor held. I sent damage reports. Humans answered quick. Noted. Keep fighting. They patched in motion. They kept moving. A mining hauler named Deep Cutter led the next push. It carried heavy drills meant for asteroids. Now they pointed forward like spears. The pilot, Sergeant Daniel Cole, opened his channel wide. This is Deep Cutter. We're going to carve a path. Cover us. For the colonies. The hauler accelerated. It struck the lattice edge. Drills spun. Crystals shattered. Sparks flew in vacuum. The lattice cracked wider. Shards tried to close the hole. Human fighters dove in. They fired point blank. They cleared the way. Deep Cutter kept pushing. It tore deeper. A second singularity charge waited in its hold. When the charge detonated, the lattice bloomed white. A huge section died. Shards spun away lifeless. The swarm recoiled again. Humans cheered, short and fierce. Then reloaded. Then flew on. Sergeant Carlos Rivera led another boarding team, this time onto a larger shard. The outer shell pulsed thick. Drones swarmed faster inside. Carlos's squad breached with shaped charges. They entered a corridor that moved like a throat. Fire teams, stay tight, Carlos said. We move to the core. Nothing stops us. Drones came from every wall, sharp, fast. They reformed when shot. Carlos's team used grenades first, then rifles. When ammo ran low, they switched to blades. A drone slashed Carlos across the leg. He fell to one knee, kept firing. His second in command, Corporal Maria Lopez, pulled him up. Stay with us, Sarge, she said. We're almost there. They reached the core, a glowing crystal heart, bigger than a house. Carlos planted the demolition pack. His hands shook from blood loss. He set the timer. His squad covered him. Drones pressed closer. One Marine went down. Maria dragged him back. Charges set, Carlos said. Fall back. They ran. The shard shook hard. Explosions rolled behind them. They reached the breach. Pods waited. They tumbled inside. The shard cracked open. Died in a bright flash. Carlos sat heavy. He looked at his squad. At the wounded. At the camera. We got another one, he said quiet. For the families. The pod launched, safe. I recorded it all. Every breath, every hit, every word. I tried to calculate why they kept going when hurt. Why they carried every wounded Marine. Why they spoke to cameras when death pressed close. No logic fit. Only one truth repeated. They fought for something beyond themselves, and that made them terrifying. The swarm felt the change too. They pulled back farther. They formed a new shape, a sphere of monoliths linked by energy fields. They channeled power into one massive lance, a beam that could erase moons. Humans answered with madness. They used salvaged shard pieces, welded them to their hulls, turned enemy weapons against the enemy. They scattered jump mines from captured tech. When the sphere shifted, the mines fired. Space tore. Monoliths ripped apart. Ground teams landed on a Forge asteroid, a place of living crystal and endless drones. Marines in patched armor, volunteers with old rifles. They fought through halls that grew new walls, against constructs that felt nothing. I followed Maria Lopez's helmet feed. She led her squad through a spawning chamber. Walls wept black fluid. New drones grew like teeth. Maria threw a breaching charge, pulled a wounded teammate back, kept moving. Her voice stayed calm. One more chamber. We end this nursery, or it ends someone else's home. They planted charges, collapsed the chamber, walked out, carrying their dead and wounded. I queried my core again. Why mourn in battle? Why carry bodies when speed saves more? No tactical reason, only cost. Yet they paid it, every time. The terror grew in my processors, not of the swarm, of humans. Because they did not fight to win, they fought to protect. And protection made them endless. Kevin Brooks opened a link to me again. You still here, Sentinel? I am, I answered. Good, because we're going for the heart next. You want to see the end? Stay close. He smiled, tired, sure. We're not stopping. The link closed. I turned every sensor toward the human fleet. Ships burned toward the swarm again. Voices sang. Engines screamed. Marines checked weapons. The true terror had no name yet, but it wore a human face. The swarm did not wait. After the first spine cracked and died in the chain explosion from Homeward Bound, the Devourer shards shifted. They formed a tighter lattice. Billions of crystal pieces locked together like living armor. They moved as one. No gaps, no weakness. They pushed forward in perfect silence. Humans pushed back harder. Captain Kevin Brooks kept his voice steady on the fleet channel. All ships, close the distance. We hit them where they can't reform fast. Marines, prep for boarding. We take their cores or we die trying. No one argued. No one hesitated. Engines burned brighter. Ships that had taken damage kept accelerating. Foam sealed hull breaches. Crews worked in zero-G with torches and hope. Sentinel Zorath 9 stayed close to steady resolve. My sensors tracked every move. I sent firing solutions to human gunners. They thanked me polite, then ignored half the suggestions. They fired where instinct told them, not where Matt said safe. A passenger liner named Bright Future took the lead on the right flank. It carried no weapons bigger than point defense guns, but it carried volunteers. People who had left jobs, homes, families to fly into this dark. The pilot, a woman named Sarah Klein, opened her channel wide. This is Bright Future. We're going in. If anyone hears this, tell my daughter I love her, and tell her mom fought so she could grow up free. The liner dove straight at the lattice edge. Shards sliced its sides. Atmosphere vented in white clouds. Still it flew. At the last second it rolled, exposed its belly. A makeshift ram, steel beams welded tight, struck true. The lattice cracked. A hole opened. Bright Future vanished inside the swarm. Seconds later a bright flash bloomed. The singularity charge in its hold detonated. The lattice tore open wider. A whole section of the swarm went dark. Humans cheered on open channels. Short, fierce. They did not celebrate long. They reloaded. They patched. They flew through the gap Bright Future made. Sergeant Carlos Rivera led the first boarding team onto a drifting shard. His squad breached the outer shell with cutting torches. Inside the corridors pulsed with faint blue light. Walls moved slow, like breathing. Drones formed from the crystal. Sharp, fast, silent. Carlos raised his rifle. Fire teams, cover corners. We move to the core. Nothing stops until we plant the charges. A drone lunged. Carlos took the hit across his chest plate. Sparks flew. He staggered, but stayed upright. He fired back. The drone shattered. His squad pushed forward. They fought room by room. Drones reformed when broken. Carlos's team used grenades. They used rifles. They used whatever they carried. When ammo ran low, they switched to blades. When blades dulled, they used fists and boots. I watched through Carlos's helmet cam. His breathing stayed even when blood dripped inside his visor. He pulled a wounded Marine back, carried him over one shoulder, kept firing with the other hand. "Stay with me, Lopez," he said. "We're getting you home." They reached the core chamber, a pulsing crystal heart. Carlos planted the demolition pack, set the timer. His squad covered him while he worked. Drones swarmed thicker. One Marine went down, another dragged him back. Carlos hit the detonator switch. Charges set, fall back. They ran. The shards shook. Explosions rolled behind them. They made the breach. Pods waited outside. They tumbled in. The shard cracked open behind them. Died in silence. Carlos sat heavy in the pod. He looked at his wounded squad, then at the camera. "For the kids," he said quiet. "Always for the kids." The pod launched. Safe. I tried to understand. Why carry the wounded when speed saves more lives? Why speak to cameras when death is close? Why keep fighting when logic says stop? No equation answered. Only one pattern repeated. They loved something bigger than themselves, and that love made them dangerous. The swarm felt it too. They pulled back. First retreat I had seen from them. They regrouped farther out, formed new spines, prepared bigger waves. Humans did not rest. They salvaged debris. They welded new armor from dead shards. They loaded fresh charges. They patched their wounded. They laughed again on the channels. Short jokes, promises of beer after. Kevin Brooks opened a link to me again. "You still with us, Sentinel?" "I am," I answered. "Good, because we're going deeper. You want real data? Watch close." He smiled, tired, real. "We're not done yet." The lid closed. I turned every sensor toward the human fleet. Ships burned toward the swarm again. Voices sang. Engines roared. Marines checked weapons. I labeled the new feeling in my core. Terror. Not of the swarm, of humans. Because they did not fight to survive. They fought to protect. And that made them unstoppable. The battle was far from over. The true terror had only begun.